Hi, my name's Tony and I'm from the SUPCO. Today I'm going to talk to you about the SIC Tao Tour 11'0". So here we are with the SIC Tao Tour 11'0". And this board, well, it kind of sits in a bit of an odd space. Not just in terms of the SIC range, I don't mean that, but I mean in terms of the space that we see as a sport, as a kind of a category of boards, if you like. And sport is probably not a bad term for this type of board because they are a bit sporty. They're a little bit more than an all-rounder offers. And that really simply comes down to one thing, and that's waterline length overall. Ultimately, all inflatable paddleboards are displacement craft. So the longer they are, invariably, the easier with which they travel. Yes, they don't turn as readily, but therefore they track better. And tracking, point to point, to paddle with actually is something that the vast majority of people would want from a paddleboard underneath them, whether that be you out there as a starter or an intermediate or even kind of more of an expert paddler. Then to have a board that tracks well underneath you, unless you're running something like a slalom course or a whitewater course or surfing, well, that invariably is what we're finding a lot of people are looking for. And this board at 11'0" overall really ticks that box for a lot of people. Now, SIC is a brand, they have an absolutely huge reputation for producing very, very technical, very fast, as well as easy to use composite boards. But their paddleboard range has broadened out in the last couple of years to encompass some really, really quite clever design and innovative features in their inflatable range overall. And this board at 11'0", particularly for paddlers looking for an all-rounder, but want something that they're perhaps not going to grow out of too readily, really has and holds a lot of appeal. You just need to know what you're looking for. So with that in mind, let's run you through from the board, down from the nose, down to the tail, as we do in all of our videos here at the SUP Company. And it's the nose on this board that really makes it stand out, despite its length of 11'0", as really something with quite sporty touring aspirations, because it's quite refined in terms of its point, but not too much so, because it still carries a lot of its width. And the width on this board is exceedingly generous. It's 33.5 inches wide. The board at 6 inches thick as well, that gives it 320 litres of volume overall. So again, it's very generous in terms of its volume and therefore its carrying capacity. So if you are a paddler, say, of around 315, 320 kilos, this board will work for you very, very well. If you're a paddler of, say, 100 kilos, 105 kilos, but you want to carry some kit with you, maybe overnight somewhere, or you're going to go on the water for an extended period of time with some kit, then this board's really worth considering. Now, the nose on the board, as we see in all SIC inflatables, it comes with this really neat camera attachment. Ultimately, it's built around a GoPro in order to receive that, but it will work with other sports action cameras and accessories because there is an M6 female fitting within there that will just work with a lot of different products out there, whether that be something from Railblazer or Ram, for example. You've got the option and flexibility to put that on the nose of this board. What we see as well is this bamboo aesthetic, and I really like it. Too often we see lots of other brands out there now kind of, if anything, they're worried about kind of alienating people in some respects, and their boards look quite conservative as a result. Well, SIC really aren't fearful in that respect, but they've done it in quite a classy, stylish way with this kind of bamboo wood grain aesthetic print on the nose of the board, leading back down to this kind of tattoo type graphic, which is quite clean, not too shouty, but it just works. It makes you stand out in the water, but for all the right reasons. That leads down to a really nice balanced deck pad, and by that I mean in terms of its color configuration. It's broken up, otherwise it'd be an awful lot of gray. They've broken it up and linked in all these different blue colorways, and I really, really like it, how it looks. It's very clean, very classy, and just simple. but it works, which is all that more important. Leads down on the nose of the board though, down to quite a small cargo net area. But to be honest, if you are on the water for an extended period of time and you're going to carry some extra gear, well, you've got a secondary net on the back end, which is much larger. And the reason for that is you're going to carry the heavier items of kit further down the board, invariably behind you, because you don't want them up in front. You just want your essentials that you're going to get to, whether that be snacks, footwear, water, whatever else you're going to have on there that you want readily to hand. But the width carries on down the board, very generous, as I say, and at 33.5 inches wide, it's really stable. But this board does glide very, very well. And it's a bit of a misnomer in that respect, in that we find sometimes with boards that are quite wide is they want to wander because you're paddled so far away from the center line of the board that you find the board just wanting to wander and track a little bit all over the shop. This board doesn't, and it just works really well. That width though, carried down towards the tail, we end up with a very nice square yet wide tail. We see that on some of SIC's other boards like the Okeanos touring board, which I'm a huge fan of. But that additional width in the tail really means one thing: stability. And that's where this board really wins through. It's stable, huge amount of volume, and glides really, really well. Small amount of rocker in the nose as well, as we see across the rest of the SIC range. Probably less so than we've seen in any other SIC inflatable, say whether that be the 10'6 Tao or the 12'6 Tao Glide. A little bit lessened rocker in here, but again, it's still very capable in a sea state. It just means the board's going to perform slightly better in flatter conditions overall. Let's take the board there and pop it up on its rail. And the one thing that you can see now, as we have across the entire SIC inflatable range, is SIC's SST technology, and that's their support stringer technology. Now that simply means that there is a piece of material, and you can make it out down the center here, that basically not only runs on the underside of the board, but over the deck's entire surface. And that stringer is basically applied to the board during manufacture, and it's done when the board is not at full pressure. And that's kind of key to the overall result at the end of the day, because by applying it to the board when it's not at full pressure, when you do inflate the board at full pressure, that ends up being under a lot of tension. And that tension over the board's entire waterline length, well, that leads to one thing and one thing only, and that is a very, very rigid product underneath you. And as an inflatable, ultimately, all you want to do is try to emulate a compromise board for its rigidity, a composite board rather, for its rigidity. And that's where SIC is striving to achieve that through having their stringer technology in their boards. That leads though back down to a US fin box. So it comes with a nice touring fin, which kind of alludes to the board's ability to tour. And well, yeah, it's just a really nice package. Who's it for overall? Well, I would say it is for a paddler, and it can be a beginner paddler that really is wanting a board that they can progress with. It's something that they're not going to outgrow readily. It's something that you can grow into and develop with, but it also means that it's everything when you go on this board from day one is achievable. It just means that as you start to paddle, particularly out over longer distances, is it still want to glide, it still want to go over the water surface, as opposed to giving you that sensation that you often get on shorter boards of pushing the water out of the way as opposed to gliding over its surface. So yeah, if you're up to around 110, 115 kilos and you want a nice entry touring board, I'd take a good hard look at the SIC Tao Tour 11'0". Thanks for watching our video. If you've got any questions about what you've seen, why not give us a call in the shop or head over to thesupco.com. To stay up to date though with all of our videos, well, make sure you subscribe up here and hit the notification bell. But to see our next video, well, take a look up here.